living in a tent, you mean, or he's... Okay. So, got it, okay. Yeah. Right. Yep, I'll get in touch with Ken. Yeah, exactly. But appreciate the heads up. Thank you, sir. Yeah, bye-bye.
Patty, I'm assuming I have shared screen capability. Yep.
Correct.
Yes, you do.
We're ready whenever you guys are.
Okay, this is Brian Campbell, and I'll call the Washington County Finance Committee to order.
It's Mike Wild from Warren County Economic Growth Development and Higher Education Committee. Will call to order.
Edna Frazier, Warren County Finance Committee.
This meeting is being recorded.
Good morning. This is Sue Clary. We'll call the Washington County ADK meeting to order.
Okay. You ready for me to get started? Okay, good. Well, good morning, everyone. It's nice to see all of you, and we do appreciate you taking the time. I know that many supervisors also had some obligations to attend memorials in honor of 9/11, and so we appreciate those of you who are able to attend today. This won't be a super long meeting, but we did want to take the opportunity to update you on kind of the fall restart and where we're at with enrollment, as well as, of course, talk about our budget and also share what our plans are for capital projects. So this will be a tag team effort between myself and Anne Marie, who's also on the call here. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. So as I said, we're going to talk about the fall restart, as we've been calling that, where we are with enrollment, our budget, and capital projects. Just some highlights, because I have reported to some of you over the summer, but we did reduce our density, which is one of the 5 precautionary measures that we've done to keep our campus and community safe. And so our fall course schedule was reduced by 75%. So about 25% of our courses are being delivered with some in-person component. And that averages out to be about 550 students or so on a weekly basis who are here for an in-person class. And again, that's spread out, of course, over a 5-day period throughout the day and evening and throughout several buildings. On Monday, we had 108, between Monday and Tuesday, we had 118 students move into the residence hall. We tested all of them upon move-in, and the good news is all their tests came back negative. So that was a good start to the semester, establishes a baseline for us, and monitoring the health of our resident students was one of our primary initiatives as we started the semester. As a result of the SUNY system has asked that all SUNY colleges and universities also create an ongoing testing plan to continue to monitor the health and safety of your campus community, with the opportunity for each campus to customize it to their own population. Of course, 64 campuses, none of us are exactly the same. Of course, some community colleges don't have housing, others do. The state-operated campuses, of course, have more students that they house than we would. So the plan didn't have to look the same, but we did need to create a plan. And I submitted that last evening for SUNY to review. We'll await their review and approval. We're estimating that plan is about a $75,000 unbudgeted cost. However, it's important to of course protect the health and safety of our students and our faculty and staff, as well as the wider community. Once we get that plan approved, I can share more details, but we kind of used some risk factors that we looked at, students that might be more likely to congregate in areas outside of classes, and some of our, general population that we would be monitoring most, of course, residence hall students being that primary population. So we will be putting a protocol in to test at intervals throughout the rest of the semester. I did want to share with you one of the videos that we created to help remind our campus community about our health and safety protocols, and I wanted to share that with you today.
Hi, I'm Carrie, a peer coach with Adirondack Compass, a new program developed to help you succeed during your time at SUNY Adirondack. Due to COVID-19, there are a number of new protocols in place at all 3 SUNY Adirondack sites to keep everyone healthy. Here's my colleague Laura to help explain.
Thanks, Carrie. We'll use our Queensbury campus for this tour, but you can expect similar protocols at our Saratoga site and our Culinary Center. Once you've checked in and been given your Safe, Smart, Ready wristband, you should wear the wristband the entire time you're on campus. You're also required to wear a mask. Be sure your mouth and nose are covered. You'll receive 2 masks in your orientation folder. If you don't have your mask at checkpoint, the attendant will provide you with a disposable mask.
As you walk around campus, you'll see signs directing foot traffic through each building. Even when heading in the same direction, we ask that everyone maintain at least 6 feet of space from one another. Once in your classroom, continue social distancing as directed by signage or your professor's instructions. When visiting offices or welcome areas, you'll find plexiglass shields for added protection. Also, please remember that appointments are now required for all office visits.
Everywhere at SUNY Adirondack, our facilities team is working hard to keep us safe, regularly sanitizing workstations and other shared spaces. But remember, no matter how much these amazing team members clean, it won't matter until we all do our part. Please wash your hands regularly throughout the day, scrubbing with soap for at least 20 seconds. You will also find that hand sanitizing stations are never far away.
And please remember, we all share the responsibility of only coming on site if we're healthy. If you are experiencing any symptoms of COVID-19, please stay home, contact your healthcare provider, and notify our Dean of Student Affairs, Kate Osick, immediately.
As a campus community, let's work together to keep us all safe, smart, and ready for a great semester here at SUNY Adirondack.
So, like many of you, a lot of work has happened over the past 4 months with everyone across campus. And I was there at move-in on Monday, and I just left with such a good feeling that every single student, every single parent came into this environment wanting to do the right thing, wearing masks, doing everything that we had asked them to do. And so we feel like we've had a good first week. We still have to remind people sometimes about making sure their masks are properly worn, not around the chin and below the nose, but otherwise, I think, we've started with a good team of people, and the students have been incredible over the past several days of our first week. So I do also want to take a moment to just continue to thank Warren County Health Services Department, Janelle and Pat, have been incredible resources for us. In fact, Janelle came in on Monday, on Labor Day, to help us implement our first testing protocol. We are using Upstate Medical Center's pooled testing protocol, which allows us to do 12 samples at a time. And Janelle was there helping and making sure that, we felt good about our protocols. They've looked at our plans several times, and they've just been an incredible resource. And we truly appreciate that partnership, and that will continue. We've also developed an MOU with Hudson Headwaters so that if we have students in particular that need to have testing in between times where we're doing some sample testing, we have a direct line to Hudson Headwaters to help students get any symptomatic testing or asymptomatic if we feel it's necessary. So, good community partners are happening everywhere, and we just really appreciate the community effort it takes to be able to open our campus back up again to our students. So enrollment, as of first day, we are behind our budgeted enrollment by about 10%. Everything was done this summer to try to meet our budgeted enrollment. However, just like we've seen across the system, probably the average community college in the SUNY sector is about 15% down in enrollment comparing year to year. It's the most unusual year, of course, we've all experienced in a variety of ways, but from an enrollment perspective, it's been a challenge, no doubt, and I would be lying if I said anything different. Our team did everything they could from marketing and all the work that we normally do to enroll students, but that's where we stand as of this week. We need about 200 more students plus meet our College Academy enrollment. So we're expecting to be about 8 to 9% off of our budget when everything settles down. College Academy is our courses in the high school. That enrollment just starts now as K through 12 comes back into session. So we continue to enroll students in that program through the next couple of weeks. So we'll know a more final enrollment number by the end of September, but we're planning accordingly. And as I said, we have 118 in our residence hall. Some interesting trends, though, that are a bit more unusual for us. And again, in this extraordinary time, nothing, I guess, should surprise us anymore. But the largest increase that we had of students, and really the only increase, were the students in the highest high school GPA range. So those in the 90 to 94 average. We did do several, we had several initiatives, particularly scholarship dollars, that I think really helped to encourage those students to potentially maybe stay home and attend SUNY Adirondacks. So that we thought was a good opportunity to be able to invite some of our best prepared students to campus. However, the concerning trend is that we have seen our students that are particularly the most vulnerable maybe opt out of college this year, and that's concerning to us and something we're going to need to better understand going forward. We also saw an increase in our part-time students, which we have not seen in quite some time. And again, I think there are students that are taking a gap year and just taking a few classes to keep kind of their toes in the water, so to speak, and remain enrolled and continue to pursue their educational goals. So we did see that trend. And the largest drop in our enrollment was in our full-time students. But in the good news column, we did 3 weeks ago, I think, received word from the U.S. Department of Education that we received yet another substantial grant to help students be successful and retain them and graduate students and also move on to four-year schools. It's called the TRIO SSS grant. It's the Student Support Services grant. It is a federal grant, $1.3 million spread out over 5 years. It will allow us to continue to scale up our efforts for students, particularly from low-income backgrounds, students with disabilities, and students who are first generation to college, with those support services that they need and that we've been able to demonstrate through other grant programs that actually do make a difference and help students get to the finish line. So we were thrilled to be able to receive the grant. The nice thing about the TRIO grant is that after the 5 years, if you've been able to demonstrate success in terms of the outcomes that you've outlined, it's very likely the grant will be renewed. which is unusual. Most grants, you kind of get the money, you're supposed to seed or pilot something new, and then the college is to sustain that going forward. In this case, the history of TRIO is that if you're successful, you're more than likely to continue to receive the grant. The grant application only comes up every 4 or 5 years. So this was a big deal for us to receive the grant. We scored a perfect score on the grant, so that was exciting too. Our Title III grant, that was the U.S. Department of Education grant we received a year ago, is also a 5-year grant, $2.2 million. And even despite some of the disruption that we've experienced in COVID-19, the Title III grant activities have moved forward. We're completely kind of transforming our first year experience. Of course, in COVID-19, we've had to move almost every service and onboarding experience for students online. We were successful in doing that. You saw in the video, if you heard what the students said, we've hired what we're calling peer coaches. And so those coaches are assigned to student populations to help kind of coach them along in their first year. We're calling that program Adirondack Compass, which is what you might have heard on the video. So those grant activities still move forward and with some good momentum, and we're really proud of that. As you remember, we have started a partnership with the Ministry of Education in the country of Qatar. That instruction began this week. We have a studio that our faculty member teaches from here that has a live broadcast feed to Qatar to students that are in classrooms in Qatar. Our first class starts at 6:30 in the morning, so we're really grateful for faculty that have agreed to teach in the program. That's a pretty early start, but so far so good. It's a small number to start. You know, COVID has impacted them as much as it has us, but we are off and running, and we look forward to continuing to enhance that partnership and increase enrollment in that area. Our early college high school program enrollment is slightly up. Those are the programs in the career areas of advanced manufacturing, new media, IT networking, and business entrepreneurship. We actually had a slight increase in those programs. They are housed both at Queensbury and at Saratoga. And as I said earlier, we had $400,000 that we were able to award in scholarships to students coming for the fall. So some really good news and continued momentum for the college. And of course, the biggest good news is we finally got to start the fall semester. Our COVID response team has been meeting daily for, I don't know, it feels like years, but probably at least 2 months. And we finally got to the start of the semester. And as I said earlier, it started off very well. So I'm going to turn this over to Anne-Marie to talk a little bit about budget and capital projects. But before I do that, are there any questions so far? Okay, then we'll keep moving. Anne-Marie?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Duffy. And I don't want to embarrass her, but I do want to publicly thank Chris she's done an exceptional job leading a really complex organization through an unprecedented time. We're very lucky to have her. So budget status, we are preparing for a 20% cut in all state aid, not just state aid support to the college, but likely to students as well. And so we are preparing for that now. That is TAP. We've received notification that it is threatened. There will possibly be no Excelsior scholarships for students either. And we'll be meeting Monday morning to start discussing the impact to our student population on that and what, if anything, the college can do to help mitigate that loss of aid. We could need up to $2.5 million from our anticipated fund balance of nearly $5 million, which we'll expect to have at the end of this year. That might sound higher than I've usually reported to you, and that's because it is. We received some CARES Act federal funding late in the year this year, which is going to go into the fund balance to be used next year. So that is how our other sister community college institutions are handling that aid as well. But it will leave us with only about $2.5 million in our fund balance, most likely. And that's just our projection as of today. That is still changing on a pretty regular basis. Obviously, the current budget that we presented to you is what I would call an austerity budget. And, you know, just to be real with everyone here on the call, it is not sustainable to run an organization based on the budget that we have for this year. It will work barely for the current year. It will not work for more than that. Our longer term fiscal health is in jeopardy without other relief, whether that's federal relief, state relief, or enrollment. And I don't think we'll be getting any state relief unless the state gets federal relief is really the message that we've received. But as you can see, if we're going to use half of our fund balance this year with an austerity budget, then we have a very short period of time to make some adjustments and really advocate for some sort of relief. And lastly, there will be further workforce reductions upcoming, and probably contraction of the college offerings is inevitable. Even if there is some relief received from the federal government and enrollment, I think we're all aware, we're all running organizations of some size at this point, right? That it's going to be several years before the economy is ready to kind of bounce back, and we see enrollment and aid in the form that we saw a few years ago. So we've received information from the state that any cuts that we receive this year will likely be a new normal, a permanent cut, so to speak, that grows from there. And so we are working to respond to that as best we can. But when 80% of your budget is personnel and benefits related, and all you really have are offerings to students, those are really the only two areas that we can go to contract the college's budget. Any questions about that?
I do also just want to add, and I should have said it at the top of the call, but since we're talking about budget, we are deeply grateful for both counties' support in our budget request. And we know that wasn't an easy decision for many of you. And we, of course, very much appreciate your supports. I did want to make sure we didn't forget that you all, made some sacrifices for us, and we appreciate that. And we just wanted to be sure to share what the extent that, we've also sustained significant reductions, and we'll continue to look at that. But we wanted to thank you for your partnership on that.
Chris, what's very interesting in this is how we went from free education to not even sending funding. That's quite a change for the great state of New York. And I got to believe that what they're doing to you isn't much different than what they are going to do to us. And the fact that they've told you that these cuts will be the new normal is probably what we're going to find when we see our 20% cut, even though they've been pretty shy on telling us where they're going to be yet. But thanks for sharing, and good luck, because it doesn't sound like it's going to get better real fast.
I think you're probably exactly right, Brian. Capital projects. Usually this meeting is called for you to jointly approve a capital project request of the colleges that we make on an annual basis. I'll jump to the end and let you know that we're not making one this year, but then I'm going to go back up to the top and kind of explain why. So the synthetic turf field and all other new projects and contracts are on hold from the state. We received that information from them early in the summer, literally while we were about to award the bid for the synthetic turf field. Like literally, we had the bids in hand and the letters drafted for the award winners. And the information came from the state that said, we're freezing everything. You cannot award any new contracts without our approval. So if there's something that is threatening life or safety, then they're moving those forward. But they're not moving forward anything else at this time. So while that project was approved, it's on hold at the state, and we're hoping that it will be able to pick up in time for next summer. And we'll just have to see what happens. But that is the plan at this point. As you're aware, we're also working through a new facilities master plan. It's the 2020 facilities master plan. Maybe we should call it 2021 at this point. I'm not sure, but it's the 2020 facilities master plan. It's in the final planning stages. And as a college community, we took a little bit of a break in that planning during this COVID work. And so we're a couple months behind on finalizing that and presenting it to the college community, but that was intentional and it was planned. It just feels like it's not the right time right now to present that information and to make those final decisions. But we will be moving forward with it in the next month or so, and then coming and presenting it to you as well. Our partner JMZ did a great job of walking us through that process over pretty much the last year, had extensive conversations with the college community and really helped us to look at what our programmatic needs are and where our facility might fall short. But the other great thing that it did was really point out all of the improvements that the college has made over the last few years in programs that are absolutely critical to our community. So we did some really great work over the last few years with your support, and the majority of the work actually was done with support from Warren and Washington County. So we're very grateful for that. Thank you. Our focus right now is to complete the capital projects that we currently have in process. And we do have several in process. So there was some work happening to the gym that was required. There were some safety issues there that are being addressed. There was some deferred maintenance that was done over the summertime in some of our larger classrooms and our most used buildings. And we are working through finalizing those projects. So our goal is to wrap those up, hopefully to complete phase 1 of the synthetic turf field in the summer of 2021 if we can, and then work to prioritize and identify funding sources for the projects that materialize out of the 2020 facilities master plan. So that will really be our capital goal for this year. And then we'll resume requests next year. So in September of 2021, at least that's the plan now. We'll have a new facilities master plan. We will have wrapped up all of the projects under the old plan and be able to present a nice wrapped up bow, exactly what we accomplished over that period. And it will just give the college a little bit of a pause between plans to be able to recognize all of the good work that we've done, catch up on our accounting, and then move forward with a new plan. Any questions about capital? Okay.
So that's what we wanted to present to you today. As Anne-Marie said, typically we would have been coming with a capital request, not necessarily for you to fund, but that is required by our sponsors to be able to approve. But as Anne-Marie said, we decided that it's just not the time to do that. And so we need to focus on what we currently have in process, and of course, continuing to work through the COVID-19 public health crisis while also maintaining our operations. So we really just wanted to update you on where we were. And we don't have an action for you to take back to the full board, but certainly open to any questions, even things that we may not have presented today or what you might be curious about. So we will open up the floor again if there are some questions.
Yeah, may I? Madam Chairwoman, may I?
Of course.
Edna, thank you.
Oh.
I assume that you're sketching out, Anne-Marie and Chris, under a worst case scenario, what is sustainable given certain conditions, as opposed to, I mean, right now you're using your fund balance to bridge, and that I assume that's you're hoping to bridge to a better time, and but should that not be as good as we hope, then the question becomes what happens at that moment in time. So you said that right now you're utilizing the fund balance, that the austere budget you have is not sustainable. And so I'm just wondering what I would imagine the sustainable doesn't look very good from any range. I don't know, Chris, if you want to field that.
Sure. So Anne-Marie and her team are projecting out our finances as we have in the last several years, created kind of a long-term financial plan. Obviously not anticipating that we would be in a pandemic, but so that is our work going forward this year, is to consider what the new SUNY Adirondack is going to look like post-COVID. And with that, what are the structural changes we may need to make in order to have a more sustainable financial future. And so those are the conversations that the leadership team is having with the board, as well as with constituents across campus in a variety of ways. So we are preparing to be, sustainable, of course. And the problem, as I think Brian even pointed out, that there's still a lot of unknowns. So, no one is giving us concrete answers as to what to expect. So, we're preparing for the worst and hoping for the best, right? Which many of us are doing. And that's the work that is the hard work going forward. We implemented some strategies this summer. We partially furloughed 126 administrators and staff, some who are still on a partial furlough. We've not filled pretty much almost every single position that we've had available over the past several years. This isn't a one-year thing. This now has escalated to a larger percent. Retirements we're not filling. So we've got, I think the last count I saw, 23 positions that will remain vacant. But that isn't sustainable either. And so there's a point at which your staff can no longer sustain the work that they're trying to accomplish. So in order to invest in the areas that we think are mission critical, we're going to have to make other decisions that can help us continue to invest in our core mission, which of course is instruction and supporting our students to succeed. With those two things in mind, we will be carefully reviewing all of our programs and services to create a more sustainable future. I don't know, Emery, if you have anything to add.
No, you summarized it really well. It will probably happen over a period of time as well. So I think we kind of have worst case, best case, and we'll probably have to implement different measures at different periods of time based on what happens, because the information is so unknown right now.
I mean, to give you a very concrete example, if we were considering eliminating an academic program, you do not have the ability to just eliminate a program. You have to teach that program out. So that's not a short-term solution. So we're trying to identify short-term, mid-term, and long-term solutions, but being very methodical and careful about that. But there's some folks that might say, well, then just eliminate a program and you could, save money. And that's not really how it works. You have an obligation to the students who are in a program. And we want to be careful that we don't make a knee-jerk reaction in a crisis that then you find yourself needing something afterwards, and now you've made this major decision. So not easy. None of this is easy for anyone, for you as well. So we're trying to use data, solid data that we can count on to make good decisions for now and into the future.
Yeah, the dormitory is a good example of that, isn't it? It has both short and long-term implications,
right,
in terms of the college and its operation. I mean, if you had to pick one item just to understand the complexity of it, it would be that, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
Chris, it's Mike Wild, if I may.
Yeah, very. Go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry. Is it my turn? There's some background noise here. I'm sorry, everyone. But Chris, just a quick question. You talked about trends in enrollment, and I'm curious if you've done or you have any data that might compare you against your peers within the other SUNY schools and maybe other areas of maybe the Northeast to see how we're doing with respect to other organizations.
Yeah. I can tell you that because we talk to each other all the time, almost every community college in New York had a decline of enrollment year to year, averaging around 15%, some higher, some lower. So we're right right alongside our peers, and that the community college sector across the nation has mostly experienced a decline in enrollment.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Dr. Duffy, I have a question in the chat from Supervisor Driscoll from Warren County.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I'd like to go back to the course schedule reduction, and as it relates to being a bit shy of the enrollment goal. Have those schedule reductions been across the board, or are there specific curriculums that you've identified? I'm especially interested in the programs to attract individuals, men and women, who are looking to get into the trades and offer them the opportunities to get a higher education.
Yep. So let me unpack that question. So the enrollment decline has pretty much been across the board, and it sprinkles throughout programs. There's no one program that has necessarily had a larger decline than others. It's kind of across the board. And so specifically in the programs that you mentioned, nursing, we're pretty stable. Some of our workforce entry programs like mechatronics, fairly stable. So, but with some decline across the board. Every time, as the enrollment declines, our section number declines, which means we do reduce instructional expenses. We've been doing that for several years now and have been, as we call, kind of mining the store very well and really directly aligning enrollment patterns with course offerings so that we're as lean as possible. We actually have had contracted with a company that really gave us a very good data analysis tool so that we can drill down into data much better than we used to be able to right size our schedule to our enrollment. So the enrollment has contracted, so has the number of offerings, but not in any one particular program. But we are, our academic leadership, our academic division chairs are very adept at really being able to offer what we think students need and not over offer and not under offer it. And so that we diminish a student's ability to be able to progress in their degree program. So it's kind of a long answer, Ben, but no one program has suffered more than another. It's really kind of across the board. And in fact, I've seen probably a larger decline in students who might have enrolled in a more liberal arts-based program, maybe looking to transfer. Again, if your full-time enrollment is down, that's one of our largest degree programs, so it's going to have a more proportional impact on some of those larger programs just in general. But I don't think it has anything to do with student interest. It's really just overall decline. And like I said, students kind of stopping out from higher education, I think, is the bigger decline that community colleges in particular have seen. Does that answer your question? Thanks.
Dr. Duffy, I'm not certain, Supervisor Campbell may have a question.
Yeah, Dr. Duffy, I really appreciate your approach and the way you're kind of hitting this head on. What started out as what looked like a couple of weeks is kind of a storm that they're forecasting now could be a couple of years. And we really don't know where the end is in sight, but it's still more than likely a blip on the screen in the grand scheme of things. I guess what troubles me most is that our state has decided the first thing where we've actually heard of concrete cuts is going to be in our youth and our future, because that's what's going to pay off the bill that they're running up right now. So I find that disturbing. I don't know how else you can handle it. And I hope we can come to a reasonable way in which we're going to fill this gap between now and when we get back to where sustainability is really in play. I guess that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I can't argue with you, Brian, at all. I think it is going, some of the things that may be positive out of this COVID-19 crisis is that we have learned new ways to be able to deliver education in ways that maybe we just weren't quite ready for, or even had the skill set. And of course, we've learned somewhat by fire back in the spring, but now having time over the summer to redesign some of the ways in which we deliver courses, I think there is opportunity to just think differently about delivering education. I mean, the Cutter example is a really good one. This studio that we have, we could use it for our courses in other places other than Cutter. It's ours. And I think once we kind of get a better feel for the technology, it's very sophisticated. I think we have opportunity to maybe even increase our ability to educate more, particularly in our rural areas, if we have the right technology available, which of course is a challenge in some of our areas. But I guess my point is that, trying to be a little bit looking on the bright side, we also have an opportunity to rethink the way that education is delivered. And I think that's going to happen across the sector, higher education in general. I mean, everyone is going through this. And so, if we use the opportunity right, we can reinvent some of the ways in which we do our work and think differently about it. So that's, we're trying to keep our eyes moving forward while it feels like we're running in quicksand most of the time. And so, that's, I think, all of our challenge as leaders in whatever in whatever way you are leading, is trying to figure out how you keep looking that, COVID will not last forever. And what will we look like on the other end? And so if we're smart about it, we have to use this opportunity to prepare.
Dr. Duffy, at this time, I don't see any other questions in the chat or any other raised hands.
Thanks, Patty. So if there are no further questions, we thank you for your time today. And of course, we're always available for questions. And again, we appreciate all of your support, great attendance today. We really do. We will continue to be your partner in helping our community build a better life going forward for all of us. So thank you for your time and your energy and your leadership in these difficult times.
Well, thank you, Anne Marie and Chris and Patty Jo. Good to hear your voice again. And I guess with that, we will adjourn our Finance Committee for Washington County.
It's Mike, and we'll adjourn Washington County, or Warren County, Economic Growth and Higher Education.
Edna Frazier, Warren County, will adjourn the Finance.
Sue Clarion will join the Washington County portion of this meeting. Thank you. Dr. Chris. Thanks, Anna Marie.
Hi, everyone. Take care of yourself. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.